Hello and welcome to Eurosport's coverage of the third round of the PPG IndyCar World Series from Long Beach, California. This is Ben Edwards, and once again I'm joined by highly respected racing car designer and engineer Robin Hurd, and together we're looking forward to a race which will see the drivers racing over 105 laps of this 1.5 mile street circuit. Well, after his heavy crash at Phoenix 2 weeks ago, there's the pole sitter for this Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, Nigel Mansell, setting the pole position time of 52.903 seconds in qualifying he managed yesterday. And Robin, he's really back on the sort of circuit that he's a little bit more familiar with.
Yes, a little bit more familiar. We see the gap at 1/4 of a second to second place, whereas last year we saw 2 seconds. The cars are much more equal, and basically there's relatively little opportunity for the driver to show his talent on this circuit.
Okay, we're looking down the grid, and certainly it is an interesting grid with Mansell there on pole position. Johansson's gone very well to qualify 5th in his Tony Bettenhausen run Penske. Looking a little further down the grid, we can see that Alonso Jr., the 4 times winner of this race, a little further down than we may have expected. He's down in 8th place on the grid. His teammate Danny Sullivan down in 12th. So certainly those two not doing as well as they might have been expected. Sullivan won this race last year after tapping Little Al into a spin, in fact, in the closing stages of the race. So neither of them doing as well as they maybe would have expected. Also quite a long way down the grid, Robbie Gordon, he's in 13th place on the grid at the moment. Roberto Guerrero down in 18th. So I think, Robin, we've got a recipe for a few cars working their way towards the front in the course of this race.
Yes, it's going to be quite difficult to overtake on this track. There's only really 1 point, and that's the end of the main straight by the pits. The other straight is very bumpy in the braking area, and it's pretty dangerous to overtake that.
So it's going to be very difficult for those guys to make up the ground, but certainly it could make some entertaining viewing for us as they try to do so. So Nigel Mansell really going for his second win in 2 IndyCar starts. Obviously he didn't make the start at Phoenix a fortnight ago after that very, very heavy impact against the wall. He's still recovering from the effects of that accident, but he certainly looks as though he's in good form from the qualifying performance that he put in yesterday. And somebody's in the wall already, and we haven't even started the race. That's Johansson, I think. Stefan Johansson is actually in the wall, and we haven't even got the race underway, but it looks as though the green flag may have come out. We're just waiting to see exactly what's going on. I think there's been some confusion here, in fact, and they thought they were going to be going around for 3 laps. There's definitely been some confusion, and Johansson absolutely must be completely fed up with that. He's out of the race already, Robin.
Yeah, I mean, Stefan's a great friend of all of us over here, having been a fine driver for McLaren and Ferrari, and this was his first real chance, this particular race in kart racing. What a real shame.
Here we are now. What's happening here? Johansson up on the outside, and well, in fact he was on the inside, and he actually went over the wheel of Mario Andretti, over Mario Andretti's wheel, and that put him into the wall. So remarkable start before this race has even got underway. And Stefan Johansson, the 5th place qualifier, certainly very disappointed with that. That really is a great shame. The Penske, the Tony Bettenhausen Penske, was certainly going well on this Long Beach street circuit, Robin.
Yes, those of us who raced over there will be very happy to see Tony Bettenhausen with a car as high as 5th on the grid. He's a great bloke, Tony, and he does it on a relative shoestring. And of course, Stefan, the chance to establish himself as a top driver. Absolutely,
Stefan made his debut in Indy cars last year. Now, I wonder if we're going to be able to get a little view of this from Little Al's car, Alonso Jr., who's a little further down the grid, as we said, than he may have hoped, but we might well get a good view. We can see Andretti just a little further in front, and indeed, there's Johansson, just trips over the front wheel of Andretti's car. That really was a very strange accident. So, well, Johansson out of it. We run the yellow flags, obviously, while they pull that car away from the barrier, and a slight delay on getting this race underway. And that certainly is a remarkable start to this race. We haven't even got the race underway, and already the action has started. So we can certainly expect a good, exciting race. It's 105 laps. Robin, what exactly are we looking for in terms of the number of pit stops from this race?
There'll be 2 pit stops, assuming there are no dramas. This is a circuit where the fuel consumption is very important, and drivers or engineers will set their cars to have as little drag as possible. But basically the simple format for the pit stops will be a 45 lap run, another 45 lap run, another 15 lap run to finish, at which point you should have no fuel left. 1 or 2 drivers may have to have rather less than no fuel.
Well, it's only going to be an interesting run, and sort of an has even started. Now, if we get a long yellow flag period during the race, is that going to change the team's strategy?
Absolutely. It means in this position they use something like half the fuel that they would do on a full power lap. And obviously this means they can run more power for a longer period in the race. And if there are enough yellow laps, then of course you can run full power all the time.
So it could certainly change the outcome of the race if they run much yellow flag lappery. We can see Stefan Johansson there walking back to the pits, a very unhappy man, and must be absolutely bitterly disappointed with that after such a strong qualifying performance. Johansson, who of course came from the world of Formula One, very experienced in Formula One, drove for Spirit originally. In fact, he made his debut in Formula One almost exactly 10 years ago at Brands Hatch in the Spirit, and that certainly was quite a while ago. He's driven for a few teams since then. Robin?
I think there's little doubt that Stefan has his opinion as to where the fault lay, if you watch the gesticulations that went on in the pits then.
He's certainly not very happy with things. His Formula One career, his highlights of that were second at Detroit and Canada for Ferrari in 1985, and he was also second at Spa and Hockenheim for McLaren in 1987, never quite getting the Grand Prix win, which he certainly sought as keenly as possible. Now he's changed to Indy cars. Well, he's certainly not going to win this one today, is he?
Sadly not, but there'll come another day, and to have done as well as he did in practice is most impressive. Bodes well for the future.
It certainly does. And as we see Mario Andretti there, the other car that was involved in that little accident, Andretti on a high, of course, having won the Phoenix 200 just 2 weeks ago. It certainly was a superb win for Andretti. It was in fact his 100th major race win in his career. Really an incredible total, 52 IndyCar wins. He started in IndyCars way back in 1964, before quite a few of the other guys on the grid were even born, and for Andretti to take that win a couple of weeks ago was certainly a great performance on his part. Well, his afternoon here at Long Beach has started off rather strangely. He's actually had a great run here at Long Beach in the past. He's a 4 times winner of the race, and of course this circuit was used in the past for the Formula One cars. It was in fact the Western United States Grand Prix venue, and Robin, you worked there many times in the course of Formula One races. You have fond memories of the circuit?
Yes, fond. Perhaps not quite so fond memories as certain members of my team, but we'll pass on from that. The first Formula One race was here in '76, and I had my team over here, and we finished 4th with Ronnie Peterson. It was great fun. The circuit was quite difficult and quite different. There were jumps and bangs, and Long Beach in those days was pretty down at heel. Now a lot of money's been spent on it. There's a Hyatt hotel right in the middle of the circuit that you can see. It's becoming an upmarket offshoot of the outskirts of Los Angeles.
So the Grand Prix ran up until 1983. Interestingly enough, actually, the last Grand Prix to be run here at Long Beach for the Formula One cars was in fact won by Eurosport's Grand Prix commentator John Watson in probably, Robin, one of his greatest ever drives. He actually drove from 22nd to take the win on that occasion.
Well, 2 points, fantastic. And of course Nicky, Nicky Lauda, 1 place behind him on the grid, also did the same thing, came through and finished second. And it always irritates me that John doesn't receive the recognition for just what he achieved in Formula One racing. He was a great driver. He's a good bloke too.
So Watson with that final win. It was Mario Andretti who won the first IndyCar win here in 1984 when the IndyCars came to take over the Grand Prix of Long Beach, and he then won again in 1985 and in 1987. He actually won here in Formula One himself back in 1977. That was when he was driving for Lotus, the year before he won the World Championship itself. So Mario Andretti has very fond memories of this track, that's for sure, and he'll be very, very keen to try and repeat the win of a couple of weeks ago at Phoenix. Son Michael also has won here in the past. He won in 1986 on the street circuit here at Long Beach. Michael Andretti, of course, now in Formula One, having a difficult start to his Formula One career with the McLaren team. Mario Andretti at Donington last week to watch him in his efforts and giving him a lot of support. But Michael Andretti, interestingly enough, was on the pole here last year and led initially. Now it looks as though we're going to get a race start underway here, and it looks as though Nigel Mansell, but no, Paul Tracy from the outside of the front row. Looks as though he's going to take the early lead, and Paul Tracy it is who takes the lead from Nigel Mansell, and once again we see that Nigel Mansell perhaps not getting the run on these rolling starts quite as well as the young Canadian, and so it's Mansell now in second place. Here we have the onboard camera from Nigel Mansell's car with Paul Tracy, the rear wing of Paul Tracy in view. This is much the view we got, of course, a couple of weeks ago with Paul Tracy dominating the early stages of the Phoenix Oval race, and here he is out in front again. Robbie, quite a start there for Paul Tracy.
Yes, I mean, the guy is obviously a real talent, and perhaps an indication that Nigel's taking a little bit easy and easing his way into the peculiarities of kart racing. I've no doubt that we're going to see him having a go at overtaking Paul Tracy before long.
Scott Goodyear then up into third place. Scott had the pole position at Phoenix. He was running second for much of the race, but ran into problems, gearbox problems in fact, that put him out of the race. A great shame, because he was putting in a superb performance at the time. But here we've got maybe a change around as Mario Andretti going past Emerson Fittipaldi. So a change a little bit further down the order, not a change for the lead, but Mario Andretti taking that fourth place from Emerson Fittipaldi, and in fact just trying to, he's in fact in fifth place now, and he's just, no, it is fourth. It's Marco Greco. They're lapping Marco Greco already. That seems a bit strange, with Greco a little bit further down than we may expect. Maybe had a first lap accident there, Robin.
I'm sure he must have problems with his car.
Yeah, well, certainly something has dropped Marco Greco right down, because he's mixed up with the leaders already. But there's Andretti. Alonso Jr. now, he's got up past Emerson Fittipaldi. This is a key thing, because Alonso Jr. has won this race 4 times in the past 5 years, and as we said earlier, was well on his way to his 5th consecutive win last year. So he really knows this street circuit well, and it's one of his favourite circuits. It has to be, with the record he has here. And there he is, Robin. He's already making his presence felt.
Personally, I'm delighted to see it. I mean, he was all set to have his 5th consecutive win here last year, and except for a misunderstanding, which perhaps wasn't entirely his fault, it was taken away from him. He is a driver who is perhaps not the best qualifier or even the best development driver, but as a race driver he is superb.
So he's certainly putting that race experience into good effect. Now look at this, we've got Scott Goodyear in third place, closing up on Nigel Mansell in the lead. So Mansell's certainly not able to extend his advantage at the moment. He was only 0.2 of a second quicker in qualifying. He had a good battle with Paul Tracy in that second qualifying session for the pole position, and Mansell it was who took the pole. But Scott Goodyear is certainly applying the pressure behind him, and he looks determined to try and make up for that poor result at Phoenix after running so well. When he was running second, losing the gearbox, that really was a great shame. Goodyear winning at Michigan last year. He had a superb second place at the Indianapolis 500, just losing out to Alonso Jr. by 0.043 of a second. It was the closest finish in history. Now we can really see, we've got a great view there, Robin, of just how close they're getting to the walls. In fact, Goodyear made a little mistake there, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very bumpy. You'll see it very bumpy at the end of this straight, and this should be normally a position where one might be able to overtake. But you see Nigel actually stayed to the smooth part, and this gave Goodyear no opportunity to try and outbrake him, although in fact he was obviously too far behind to attempt it. Oh, Nigel was close to the wall.
He certainly was, yeah, getting as close as possible. We've seen Nigel Mansell perform superbly on street circuits in his Formula 1 days. His best result here at Long Beach when he was racing in Formula 1 was a 7th place in 1982. That was when he was driving for Lotus. In those days, the Lotus not quite as competitive as it sometimes, as we see perhaps a change. A Little Al trying to go past Mario Andretti, and round the outside of Mario Andretti, Little Al really looks fired up, and he's determined to try and take another win.
Yeah, that is the best place to overtake. It's the end of the straight by the pits, because it's quite a long straight, something like just over a kilometre, but it's smooth, and you can therefore either try and outbrake on the inside or the outside, and that was a great manoeuvre by Al.
Well, that's certainly a great performance in the opening laps. Don't forget, Alonso Jr. started in 8th place on the grid. He's now up to 4th place, and it looks as though that the Gallus team may well have got this Lola tuned in that much better now for this particular race. They had a little bit of understeer they were experiencing in qualifying, but they seem to have dialed that out, and maybe they've got themselves a good race setup.
Yes, Ben, I think you're right. As I say, I hope so, because it's a team that deserves to succeed, and I have no doubt will succeed.
So
the engineer in charge of this team was very kind, and he actually sent us a fax of all the scuttlebutt, which is American for rumours, that were going through the pits and what really was happening down there. Little Al actually qualified higher on the Friday and blew up the engine on the Saturday and wasn't able to go any faster, and hence his 8th place.
Okay, so we can see the onboard footage here from Danny Sullivan's car. Danny, teammate to Al Unser Jr. He also qualified a little bit further down than he would have hoped. But we are going to be back with some further coverage of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach in just a few moments. Stay with us for what promises to be a very exciting race. Welcome back to our coverage here on Eurosport of the 3rd round of the IndyCar World Series from Long Beach. We just have seen Scott Brayton having stopped on the circuit. He's obviously got some sort of problem with his Amway-sponsored machine. But meanwhile, the action's all hotting up up front, as we can see, because Little Al is now challenging Scott Goodyear for that 3rd position. Goodyear in 3rd place at the moment. Little Al is Al Unser Jr. trying to take that 3rd place away from him. And who's this in front? Is it Paul Tracy? No, it's Emerson Fittipaldi back out after a pit stop. So as Al Unser Jr. tries to get down the inside of Scott Goodyear there, doesn't quite squeeze through. That was Scott Brayton's car they were just overtaking there. And Al Unser Jr. trying everything that he can to try and find a way past Scott Goodyear for 3rd place. So it's still Paul Tracy leading at the moment from Nigel Mansell in 2nd place. Scott Goodyear in 3rd with Al Unser Jr. 4th. We are now going to join our team in America to keep us updated on the progress of this race.
You don't find out till you get there, and we saw an incident here at Long Beach a couple of years ago where Mario Andretti, going down Shoreline Drive, went to make a move on another guy, and there was a parked car, and he pulled out and ran right into the back of the parked car.
Guerrero's car, I believe?
I believe it was
yes.
Guerrero's, yeah. Seen a number of odd incidents here, in fact, at Long Beach, including the pit road incident between Michael Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi. Very narrow, fast pit road.
Well, perhaps the last lap, as Guy pointed out, that with the corner workers signaling, Al saw that. He had good radio communications, and rather than challenge Scott, he decided to take the safe route. He tucked it in behind, and it really was a very intelligent move, because there would not have been enough room for Al Unser Jr. and Canadian Scott Goodyear to get through that corner. Shades of the Indianapolis 500 of 1993, sort of.
Kind of.
Needs to be later in the race.
I think Goodyear would rather win the Indy 500.
Well, this is the exact opposite position that they were in then. Al was leading the race, but in a car that was slowing down slightly relative to Scott. Scott was running 2nd. Just didn't have enough laps and enough time to get by.
We're on lap 25, so in about 10 more laps or so, which is approximately 10 more minutes, we should see the first official pit stops that will be made, whether we're changing tires, refueling, getting back out there as quick as they possibly can.
It'll be interesting to see if anybody tries to stretch it because of those 4 or 5 yellow flag laps which began the race. Information from timing and scoring, by the way, the number 11 car of Adrian Fernandez had a blown engine. Still no word as to what happened to Scott Goodyear. After 25 laps, Tracy Mansell Goodyear, Al Unser Jr., Mario Andretti still holding on 22 seconds back in 5th, and Raul Boesel, good run, just 30 seconds behind. There's a very interesting story, Raul, as we continue to watch Al Unser Jr. shadow Scott Goodyear. Raul has now tremendous experience over the past 10 years. A world endurance car champion, world sports car champion. He's run just about every type of formula there is,
including 2 Formula 1 races here.
Absolutely. And he's never made a gigantic splash in Indy cars. I think he's just not had the equipment really to match the potential of his talent just yet.
Working very hard with the equipment he does have, and he managed to pull off a 2nd place finish, of course, at Phoenix 2 weeks ago. There you see Marco Greco, and there you can see the wing damage we talked about. They're also taking off the rear wing.
Perhaps making a slightly early stop, because the car would be a handful with no right front downforce, when particularly when most of the corners here are right-handers.
To quote a driver, it'll handle like a pig from now on. So. There you see Al Unser Jr. again. They've been developing the car slowly this year, hoping for, of course, great results at the Indianapolis 500, and to learn and pick more away from the Chevy C engine and learn more about it so they can get more out of it as the season goes on.
Incidentally, we now also have an update on what happened to the Coldwater, Michigan driver Scott Brayton in his Amway Northwest Airlines Ford Cosworth. Transmission problems. Stopped at a very dangerous place as we jump inside with Arie Luyendyk, winner of the 1990 Indianapolis 500. Native of Oss, Holland originally. Now there's a Rossmolen that shows up on the entry list, but we all know that for the time being at least, Arie is making home in Phoenix, Arizona.
Loves his Italian food and doesn't like people that talk too much, is one of his quotes. And he didn't have much to say. I stopped by to ask him how things were going yesterday, and well, I can't really tell you what he said.
Here is one of the, and Arie getting a little out of shape there. They swung out of corner number 8. This is the long front straightaway. As you see, it is like a crescent moon. Shoreline drive, 150, 60, 70, 75, 80, 85. Now I got to start slowing down, reach for the brakes, go down through the gears, and make a hard right-hander. Right in the corner number 1.
They take that straightaway in 6th down to second gear for turns 1, 2, and 3. Change up to 4th for the 3rd corner. And then out of the 3rd corner is back up to 6. 6 all the way into turn 6. Back through the gears, and they take the hairpin generally in 2nd. Some of them are taking it in 1st gear, mainly taking it in 2nd gear.
That's Robbie Buell, that red and yellow MyJack car, a rookie driver from Grosse Pointe, Michigan. That's in the Detroit area, who was the Indy Lights champion a year ago. Another young man who, despite being in his early 20s, really has tremendous experience in open wheel and formula cars and making the jump to Indianapolis cars, getting up to the big cars for the first time in '83.
He won the Skip Barber Racing Series. He also won the Indy Lights Series. I spoke to him yesterday, asked him how he felt with these guys. He said, the only thing I don't like, he says, is not running up front. I'm not used to being out in front, leading these races.
And that is a big change for a lot of people who come to this type of racing. Another driver who's in a similar situation is Jimmy Vasser. I've been watching Jimmy closely for the last 5 years, and he has been the king most places where he has run. You come to the Indy cars, and with this tremendously strong international field, plus all of the major American Indianapolis car drivers have stayed in the field, it's just tough. It's really difficult to crack the top 10.
And it's tough to get the best equipment, which you really need. It can make a couple of tenths of difference. It seems like very little, but it's actually a huge amount over a long race.
Little Al bumped the curb there and was loose for a second, was spying right at the cement, but recovered quickly and got back on the throttle.
The aerial view, you can see the huge crowds we have on hand here for this Long Beach Grand Prix.
And this is from the Goodyear, that's tire and rubber, not Scott Goodyear blimp. Although he wouldn't mind having a piece of that action.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind owning the blimp.
So as we continue our coverage of this Long Beach Grand Prix, we see that Paul Tracy still out in front. We haven't seen a lot of him, Paul Tracy, but he's still out in front by over 10 seconds from Nigel Mansell in 2nd place. A difference in cars and engines, Robin, there between those two. Paul Tracy running the Chevy engine in the Penske.
Yes, it's interesting. After Australia, there was a certain amount of light criticism of the Chevrolet engine compared to the Ford Cosworth. And I spoke to Matty Elan, who designed the Chevrolet engine from Northampton, and he said they'd been working on the pickup of that engine between Australia and here, and it's certainly showing. Tracy's disappearing into the distance. He's doing a Mansell.
That's right. Mansell's having it done to him what he's done to others in the past, and we haven't actually seen an awful lot of him at this stage, but we will hopefully see a little bit more of him in a little while. We are going to return to coverage of the IndyCar race from Long Beach in just a moment. You rejoin us as we are on board with Nigel Mansell, and Mansell is trying to get past some of the slower back markers at the moment, trying to put another lap, and it's proving to be quite exciting at the moment. We can see he's working very hard at the wheel of the Newman Haas Lola, and we've got another car to try and get past just up in front of us there. That could be, oh dear, and Mansell not happy with the way that Ross Bentley, the Canadian driver, was not getting out of his way at all there, and so Nigel Mansell not very happy, but certainly he seems to be getting into this race, Robin. Very different car to drive, of course, to the Williams Renault, which he was so used to last year. These cars quite a lot heavier, and that's putting quite a lot more strain in terms of driving it, isn't it?
Yes, he himself says it's taking a little while to accustom to drive these on the road circuits. One thing that's interesting, if you watch his right front tyre when it goes through the corner, you can see a darker band appear as the particular part of the tyre is getting highly loaded.
Yeah, you can definitely just see the way that the rubber's working there, and obviously the setup of the car is vital. Do you think that maybe the Newman-Haas team are concentrating on consistent laps at this stage? Maybe the Paul Tracy car they've sorted that car out, maybe reduced the fuel load in the early stages for him to get an early lead. Perhaps the Newman-Haas team are playing the game a little differently.
It could be. The length of the race does leave one the opportunity to do one or two interesting things with the...
That's Paul Tracy, the race leader, with a punctured tyre, and he's managed to get back into the pit, so we might well see him not lose too much time here, but Tracy is certainly in trouble. So let's rejoin our American commentary team to keep us updated on Tracy's progress in the pits.
Possibly be interpreted as the planned pit stop, but race leader
now
Paul
he's stalled
Tracy.
the engine, I believe.
Oh, frustrating.
Yeah, fire away now. Watch him go out of there in a hurry.
Young Paul has been so fast in American IndyCar racing. He first surfaced in IndyCar racing 3 seasons ago now in 1991. In the second race he was ever in, he crashed severely at the Michigan International Speedway. He was able to come back later that season, but that set the program back. Here apparently is going to be a replay of what happened to Tracy. Let's watch for it.
There you can see the marbles too. Oh, it just goes.
Very strange. That tire was off the rim, and we were unable to tell if he had made contact with the wall or another car or what. It was a 19-second pit stop. He had a comfortable lead over the other 4 cars in the lead lap, so it might be something he can recover from. We'll just have to wait and see.
Of course, handing Nigel Mansell the lead, which Nigel will take very kindly. Thank you, Paul. Nigel should be making his pit stop fairly shortly.
At this point, it really puts Al Unser Jr., the winningest driver in terms of money of all time in American road racing, in a very good place. Nigel has radioed that he is unhappy with the engine. That's not a good sign. We've heard nothing from Little Al. He has ascended from his 8th starting position pretty easily, I would suggest, to the runner-up spot. He might be in a very good place.
I was talking to Little Al's ex-crew chief this morning. Asked him how his team was doing and how he was feeling about the car this morning. And Little Al's ex-crew chief had asked Little Al, and Little Al said, "I've got a good car." And apparently Little Al doesn't say that unless he has a good car, so he's pretty happy.
Incidentally, an update on the Tracy situation. The word from the pits is debris was run over by Paul Tracy.
Probably something along the lines of Marco Greco's front wing, or maybe laying out on the track somewhere.
A good candidate. I also had a conversation with Al this morning, and he was commenting that the car was slow in coming to them. They just weren't certain about this Lola, that they really hadn't latched on to how to make it faster. And he said we weren't communicating with the car that well, but he felt like they had made great strides, and boy, we're really seeing that in the race.
Of course, last year they ran the Galma chassis. There you see Jimmy Vasser.
There's a fire in the engine compartment, we are told. That's why Jim is pulled into the pits, Jimmy Vasser, and not too much panic, so apparently the fire has snuffed itself out. But Jimmy Vasser, the driver from Discovery Bay, California, one of my favorite race driver hometowns. And again, somebody we talked about earlier, as I do believe that this man's going to be around for quite some time. Mario and drivers like AJ obviously are in the twilight of the career as we see Scott Pruitt come in, although who knows how long Mario raced, but Vasser could be here for a while.
Well, if he keeps getting wins like he did at Phoenix, Carl Haas may have to start paying him more. It's going to keep him wanting to go.
Again, that's Vasser.
That's Raul Bersal in the number 9
yes.
Duracell-sponsored car. And also, just before that, we saw Scott Pruitt making his pit stop. Those were scheduled pit stops. As we are approximately lap 39.
39 laps are now down.
These cars hold about 40 gallons of gasoline, and they will get about 1 lap per gallon this weekend on this track. So that's why we're figuring 39, 40 laps, and we had the yellow flag to start with. It may extend it just a little bit.
Robbie Gordon is in for his stop. Robbie Gordon ranks 6th right now in the 1993 IndyCar point standing. This, of course, is the ride put up by A.J. Foyt. Robbie Gordon, one of the most exciting young drivers in IndyCar or all open wheel racing around the world for that matter. Robbie, a lot of off-road experience. He actually ran the Daytona 500 a year ago, as we now go back from pit road and take a gander at Danny Sullivan having a great race.
Great afternoon. There you can see what a gorgeous day it is here. We're right on the coast, and you can see the trees blowing in the breeze. Nice sunny day. Here's Alonso Jr. taking a look down the inside of Paul Tracy, I believe that is. Or is that Emo?
I think that's Emo.
Here comes Jr. in the pits.
Yeah. Alonso Jr.
Right
takes
here,
this
right
opportunity to make his pit stop as he was battling with Emerson Fittipaldi. Let's see how the Gallus crew handles this. Al comes to a stop right on the mark. Right side tires are coming off. As we are speaking, the left side tires have also been changed. Refueling nozzles in, no incident there. All the jacks are down, the fuel nozzles out, tires are on. Al accelerates quite professionally. A little bit of fuel that you see spraying there on the right-hand side of your screen. Routine, that's the filler. That'll be burned off and blown off before he gets out of the pit area. And Al Unser Jr. with what I consider a textbook stop.
And they come out right on the inside as you see the other cars come into turn one. It makes it a bit nasty if you're putting a move on and suddenly someone comes out from the wall from the pit exit. There you see Roberto Guerrero. The difference between pit stops here in the IndyCar series and Formula One. In Formula One, you're allowed as many people as you want over that wall. You can do whatever the heck you like, and you can have one guy carry the tire, one guy change the tire. Here's Nigel making his pit stop. In IndyCar, you're only allowed 6 people over the wall.
Now let's watch this one closely, because remember Nigel radioed in. He said, "I'm not completely happy with the engine."
Mario, his teammate, pitting as well, right behind him.
No inspection going on back there. A crew member looking over some of the side pods to make sure there's no debris there. And just again, another planned pit stop and no special work. Perhaps they're hoping that if there is an engine problem, that it will solve itself. It was a great stop, under 15 seconds. Mario Andretti pulls out, teammate Mario Andretti.
His pit stop equally as good.
Incidentally, we also picked up on the scanner that during the Al Unser Jr. pit stop, that his crew said it's time to pick it up and go for the lead. So let's see how he handles it.
Can he make it 5 wins here at Long Beach, which would put him ahead of Mario Andretti as far as wins are concerned. Mario, though, of course, one of the few people to win in both Formula One and in the IndyCar series. And it doesn't look like Formula One will be coming back to Long Beach, although a lot of people would like to see it back here.
It has been a while. I mean, they left in 1983. Shall we say they were not invited back after 1983 and haven't returned since. It was quite romantic racing. It really was, because it was a great setting, I believe, for the Formula One circus as it came into town. And it's a good course, as street courses go. It's an excellent.
There's a lot of talk of maybe having a street circuit built inside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which has also just recently announced that it will have the NASCAR cars come to Indianapolis and run there in August of 1994. Paul Tracy having a good battle with Scott Goodyear right now. The 2 Canadians battling it out.
Remember, Paul Tracy had to stop perhaps a lap sooner than he would have liked to when he shredded that right rear, or make that a left rear tire.
And that ended up not being such a bad deal for Paul Tracy there. Could have happened, of course, too, at the other end of the track. Luckily for him, it happened towards the pit end of the track. It didn't take him too much longer to get back round than it normally would. And he was due for a pit stop within a lap or 2 anyway. If it had happened earlier, it could have been big troubles for him.
If you just joined us, you're watching the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach on ESPN International. Nigel Mansell, Alonso Jr. almost misses the corner.
He was going for it. That's where he got punted out by teammate Danny Sullivan last year. Junior is charging down. I believe that is Nigel Mansell in front of him.
That is Al doing exactly what his crew told him to do, is go for the lead. That will be the fight for the lead very shortly. Al Unser Jr. on to Seaside Way. They go through the tunnel There are a series of buildings that tower above the back straightaway. Corner number 6, then to corner number 7, the hairpin is coming up. A complete 180-degree bend leading on to Shoreline Drive. Al Unser Jr. tries to hit the apex just perfectly. He has Nigel Mansell in his sights. So the best that the United States has to offer, at least at this moment, with the best that Great Britain has to offer, at least at this moment, with my respects to Ayrton Senna.
I'm going to give I'll give the edge to Al Jr. mainly because of his record here. He seems to just do very well and goes for it here. But also because Nigel Mansell is not 100% fit following his accident at Phoenix. Over this weekend, every time he's been out of the car, he's done as little as possible in it. He gets out of the car, he goes back to the motorhome where he gets a massage, and he's had his back covered and packed in ice. He's having a lot of backache and back trouble.
You're watching a private battle between a couple of representatives of the Dominion of Canada. That's Paul Tracy in Roger Penske's Marlboro-sponsored number 12, and Scott Goodyear in the McKinsey-sponsored number 2. Both young Canadian drivers who have made a significant impact on American IndyCar racing. And right now, Goodyear looks to the inside of Tracy, but not quite enough room. And now they are being shown as the leaders, as the scramble has once again, after all the pit stops, changed what was being shown up on the leaderboard. And Tracy is being shown as the leader once again. So this is the battle for first place.
See the blue sunny skies here in Long Beach, California.
Sullivan was black flagged for speeding on pit road. And Sullivan, pointing at the officials as he leaves, he feels very unhappy about the ruling that has befallen him. That was his second stop-and-go penalty. So Danny Sullivan, who was having a great race, that is a phenomenon of American racing, Guy, is that there is a speed limit, a courtesy that is to be displayed on pit road, as we see Teo Fabi working on Scott Goodyear. And that is because we've had deaths of crew members having been struck by cars on pit road here in America.
And that
here is that near pass view left. You see Al is on the binders. He was on the brakes very hard a long time before that corner. That was corner number 6, and he was able to save it. Here's what it looked like from in-car. Al thinks he has the room. He's coming up on corner 6. He finds that he had too much momentum. He knew it going in. Once you hit the brakes, the car breaks loose. You lose your grip, and you have no choice but to bring it down, slow it down, and forget about the attempt at the pass.
And he locked up that right front. You saw it, and the moment it locked up, he was off the brakes again. Doesn't want to flat spot those tires. Wanted to be able to turn in, and he made the turn perfectly. If I'm getting it wrong, he did a great job.
Let's recap again your leaders.
There you see our leader.
Country of Canada has got to be feeling proud right now. Paul Tracy on your screen. He is the race leader. He's got about a second lead on fellow countryman Scott Goodyear. And that bright blue number 2, Nigel Mansell, runs in third, just 4 seconds behind. Al Unser Jr. right behind Nigel. Mario Andretti about 13 seconds back in 5th position. Those are the only 5 cars on the lead lap after 48 of 103 that we will go in today's race. So we are approaching the halfway point. Other cars in the top 10, 1 lap down, our old boys.
Well, this race certainly is turning out to be very exciting indeed. The 2 Canadians, Paul Tracy and Scott Goodyear, out in front at the moment. And with the pit stops, really that puncture, Robin, on Paul Tracy's car was perfect timing for him. And in fact, he really didn't lose any time by it at all, did he?
He was very lucky. I gather he came in 1 lap early as a result, but he was within the window where it's not going to create another pit stop. Of course, where he did lose time was he stalled the engine, but it was not sufficient to lose the lead. It's pretty obvious that Nigel's got a problem. Obviously, he's not fit, and it sounds as if he may have the engine problem that he's claiming.
It's Lynn St. James in the pits there, the lady representative in the IndyCar Series this year. It's her first full season in the IndyCar World Series. She qualified at Indianapolis last year, becoming just the 2nd ever woman qualifier. So there we see Paul Tracy out in the lead from Scott Goodyear in 2nd place. Nigel Mansell's holding on to 3rd at the moment. Return with us in just a few minutes' time. Welcome back to the coverage of the race from Long Beach. We've got some exciting action again here because Scott Goodyear has just had to come into the pits for a stop-and-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And he's come back out just in front of Nigel Mansell, who's trying to hold off the advances, or no, sorry, of Mario Andretti. So Mansell, we saw during the break, was actually trying very hard to hold off the advances of Alonso Jr. in their battle for third place, but now that's become the battle for second place. So it's all changing around, Robin, and Scott Goodyear's penalty there certainly dropped him back a bit.
Yes, Ben, it's a shame because the little fight that you've missed, I'm afraid, between Tracy and Goodyear was tremendous, and we've now lost it.
We've got a great battle here. Oh, and there's contact between Mansell and Unser, and certainly there the front wheel of Unser's car hitting the back wheel of Mansell's car, and it's Unser's car that's come off the worst. You can see that left front wheel there, certainly not pointing in the right direction at all, and Alonso Jr., his race is run, contact with Nigel Mansell, and the battle for second place has resolved with Unser's car up against the wall. Well, that certainly was incredible action there. Alonso Jr. just maybe misjudging it, Robin. What do you think?
Yes, pretty aggressive move. There you can see it.
Trying to go around the outside there. That was a brave manoeuvre. And Mansell, well, really, you can't have expected little Al to be trying there. And really, it was just one of those things that they made contact. Alonso Jr. certainly a very brave manoeuvre, which didn't come off. But here we can see Nigel Mansell. Now we wonder if the car is damaged at all.
Yes, I think he's probably got away with it. I always get the feeling that Mansell's got the luck going with him today. Certainly there was no way that one would criticise Mansell that manoeuvre. It was just little Al being a little too excitable.
Well, certainly very exciting action there. There's our race leader, Paul Tracy, but we are now going to return to the American commentators to keep us again updated on proceedings.
Very, very uncharacteristic incident involving Alonso Jr. He has become a master at avoiding exactly those sorts of things on the street courses in the IndyCar series. But now for the second year in a row, he's in a winning posture at Long Beach, and he's taken out in a minor incident. But cars, even though they're strong, they're well built, those cement walls are individual Jersey barriers, as they call them in America, and each one of them is 8,000 pounds. And an IndyCar has never won against a barrier yet.
No, they never will do. There you see a safety car out on the track. Nigel overtaking that. I'm not sure what the deal on that is. It should be a full course yellow coming out, but if there was, he should have stayed behind the pace car.
However, it is the obligation of the car to pick up the race leader. So perhaps they allowed Nigel to go by as they continue to seek...
as Nigel came up alongside, you saw him take a look to the pace car, and the guy driving the pace car would have given him a go-by signal, so that's why Nigel would have gone on and not worried about it too much. He may take this chance to come into pits, now knowing that it is a full course yellow.
Paul Tracy,
it's always better to pit under a yellow. Paul Tracy is in, a little early, lap number 55, so they are going to have to make another stop.
Paul Tracy has positioned himself now because of the way this race is unfolded. There's Nigel right behind him.
He's going to come in. Nigel's pit is a completely opposite end to the Penske's, and we'll probably see some action and see if they take a look at that rear end of the car.
Nigel taking a drag on his, he suppose that's water or that patented Formula One jungle juice?
Jungle juice. I think it's jungle juice. Nigel probably would like to be out golfing right now too. His friend Greg Norman is here. He and Ray Hall, and of course Greg Norman will be out hitting the links a little later on.
Paul Tracy, however, has, because of the way this race has unfolded to this point, lap number 56, placed himself in perhaps his best position to win an IndyCar race, although many will tell you that he was never in a better position than he was at Phoenix a couple of weeks ago when he simply crashed. He lost the handle on the high-speed oval. This is a little more at home for Paul, a tight road course. This is what he grew up with in Canada, and perhaps he has learned enough. He's learned the control that is really necessary, particularly on a course that is completely lined by who's that? Nigel or Mario?
That was Nigel locking him up on a yellow pace lap.
Yeah, he's trying to catch up. He does not want to lose any advantage. But perhaps this will be Paul Tracy's day finally. Here's another look at what happened. You can make the call. There you see Al, and Did he give Nigel enough room? Did Nigel give Al enough room? Was Nigel obligated to give Al room? This is after the incident, I believe.
And this is what Ham said. There you see the reaction of the suspension arm. But I thought it was going to cause a little more damage than that, but it caused damage to Al Unser Jr.'s car, that's for sure.
Here is the view that Al Unser experienced.
There he sees he can't get by there, but he goes for the outside of 2, so he'll get the inside of 3. Yeah, you see him brush up against the wall. He had nowhere to go, and Nigel moved over slightly. I don't know if he really moved over on him.
Tough call. I suggest it probably depends on which side of the Atlantic Ocean you live on as to where you'd like to place the blame.
I think so. I'm going to sit in the middle.
You're in the Concord, somewhere over the Atlantic, eh? This is Long Beach, California. This is a race around the port of Long Beach. It's the second largest populated area in the United States of America, of course, second to New York City. It's multifaceted, this area. Hollywood, of course, is not that far away. It's always been a great racing community, beginning in the 19-teens, really, when they erected board racetracks. Yes, 1 mile and a mile and a half long high bank board racetracks, 2 of them in the Los Angeles, California area. Riverside, California, a major road course sprouted here in the early 50s and existed until the early 1980s, when it was forced to make way for urban progress. And fortunately, Chris Pook, about 15 years ago, or I guess it would be closer to 17 years ago now, eh?
So this is the 17th.
17th year altogether. Decided to, well, if all of the land barons in Southern California are buying up the available racetracks and the land they set on, well, I'll take the land that has already been developed and make it into a racetrack, and he did so. As we mentioned earlier at the top of the show, this was the first street race, the race through the streets of a city in America, and I just think it's so fitting that it has survived.
There in the middle, that white ceiling building is the convention center here in Long Beach, and it's got a wonderful mural on it of whales and dolphins and sharks. There's our leaderboard after lap 58 of 105. Paul Tracy out front, the Englishman Nigel Mansell second, Canadian Scott Goodyear third, Bobby Rahal out of Dublin, Ohio fourth, Roberto Guerrero in fifth. Roberto Guerrero having a good run up there in fifth.
Still is a very wide open race. We've got Paul Tracy leading the way. He's got Nigel Mansell, the reigning world champion, tucked in behind him to apply the pressure. So it certainly could be a very interesting last section to this race. Make sure you stay with us here on Eurosport. Well, welcome back as we rejoin the view from Nigel Mansell's car. Paul Tracy has just come back into the pits, so Nigel Mansell is the new leader. Paul Tracy made a stop once the green flag had come out. We saw a few cars come in fact, including Bobby Rahal. He also came into the pits at that stage. So it's Nigel Mansell now who leads the Toyota Grand Prix at Long Beach, and Paul Tracy is the man chasing after him. There we can see another pit visitor there, and that is Buddy Lazier back into the pits. He's got some problems with that car. We also saw Dunny Sullivan come in a moment ago with the front wing rubbing on his front tyre, and that's Robbie Gordon. Robbie Gordon into the pits with a punctured right front tyre. So Robin, it's all happening, and interesting to see how this pit strategy is working. Oh, hang on, we've got a little bit of a view of this first of all. Robbie Gordon, no, it looks like the tyre punctured while he was going round. There's a lot of debris on the circuit, and perhaps that's what's causing it. But certainly a different tactics in the pit stops that we're seeing here.
Well, there are 2 situations have arisen. Suddenly we seem to have had 3 or 4 people coming into the pits change tyres as if they've got damaged tyres. I'm afraid the viewers won't have seen this. Secondly, the occasion of that long yellow was interesting because it was outside what they call the window. But some people chose to have a full fuel load taken on and change their tyres then, which, because there was a car out, meant didn't actually lose them much time, and their final pit stop would be a very short one, just some 10 laps from the end.
So we're likely to see the what they call the splash and dash towards the end, where the cars will be coming in, taking just a little bit of fuel on, just enough to get them to the checkered flag at the end of the race, probably not a tyre change.
Absolutely, man.
So that could certainly provide some more action towards the latter stages of this race, as if we haven't got enough already, with Nigel Mansell there trying to fight his way through some of the slower cars around him. That's Roberto Guerrero's car just in front of him, and Arie Luyendyk just in front of him. Guerrero going down the inside there. He's now in second place, in fact, Guerrero. So he's going very well indeed. He didn't qualify at all well, and he must have been very disappointed with his 18th place qualifying, but he's certainly going well now in second place, just having got past Arie Luyendyk there. So Roberto Guerrero in the King Motorsports Budweiser Lola Chevy, another car running the Chevy C engine. As you can see there, just going past Arie Luyendyk is Mario Andretti. So Andretti also getting past the Dutchman, who doesn't seem to be having such a good day. But let's rejoin our American commentators to keep us updated once again.
Following up on the story with Bernstein, his Winston Cup stock car with Brent Bodine behind the wheel qualified for the front row for today's stock car race in the mountains of North Carolina, North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Running down all the cars after 64 laps, Hiro Matsushita, Emerson Fittipaldi, remember he had some problems. Alonso Jr., he will be scored in 21st position today. No higher than that, not enough for points.
They score points through the top 12 positions. At the moment, Mario Andretti, that man, Nigel Mansell, following him in the points. Mario Andretti leading with 32. Nigel Mansell with 22. Robbie Gordon has now stopped out on the course.
Robbie, who has had a
going to look for a tow back to the pit, I would imagine. Oh, he's just going to get out of the car and give it up there, and they will tow the car back, get it out of the way.
He has had a great rookie season, and had it not been for the presence of Nigel Mansell, here would have been the most spectacular rookie of 1993 so far.
Definitely having a good run. He had a great race in Australia, finishing third. He worked his way from 20th up to third at Phoenix very quickly, but then, unfortunately, probably got a little too aggressive and crashed out, and could well have ended up winning that race, because then the other two leaders also crashed out immediately after that.
If you miss the graphics on the screen while we monitor the situation of this local yellow, let's run down for you the top 20 cars in this race again. There you get a kind of a panorama that Gordon is just at the entrance to Seaside Way, or essentially the backstretch. Mansell leads, Guerrero is second, some 7 seconds behind. Mario Andretti is immediately behind Roberto Guerrero, just right behind his tailpipes. Raul Boesel is running in 4th position. Scott Goodyear in 5th position. Paul Tracy being shown now in 6th position, and Bobby Rahal in 7th. And whereas at one point we were down to 5 cars on the lead lap, we're now back up to 7 because of all this shuffling we've had going on with blowing tires and the like and pit stops. In 8th is Teo Fabi. 9th is Eddie Cheever. 10th is the former international go-kart champion Scott Pruitt. Dutchman Arie Luyendyk is running in 11th. Mark Smith is running in 12th. He's a rookie on the IndyCar trail this year. Robbie Buell from the Detroit, Michigan area is 13th. Danny Sullivan, an angry Danny Sullivan, is 14th. He was forced to come into the pits 3 times for stop-and-go penalties for speeding in the pits. 15th is Japan's Hiro Matsushita. And 16th, Brazil's Emerson Fittipaldi. 17th, Canada's Ross Bentley. 18th was Robbie Gordon, now becomes Lyn St. James. 19th, Buddy Lazier, and 20th, Jeff Wood.
Back on board with Nigel Mansell, riding the hairpin onto Shoreline Drive past the pit lane area. Nigel got a clear track in front of him. Guerrero, who is running second, the interesting thing is he did not make a pit stop in that last yellow flag period. He's only made 1 pit stop so far. He is going to have to come in fairly shortly, within the next 10 laps or so, to make his second pit stop.
Incidentally, when Robbie Gordon, as you called it, Guy, he looked like he was going to dismount. He took the belts off, sat up in the seat, then slid back down in as the tow truck pulled him back to the race course. He did not fasten the belts. If that car is able to go back out again, he will be penalized for not refastening the belts upon getting back in the race car. Roberto Guerrero there in the Budweiser red, the number 40 car, the Kenny Bernstein car again. It's an interesting story. He only entered one Indianapolis race in 1993, and I think the entire world, unfortunately, knows what happened. Set a brand new track record qualifying for the pole, and unfortunately crashed on the pace lap.
Not Roberto Guerrero's proudest moment, I can tell you that. There you see how close Mario Andretti is, just one car behind him. That's Scott Pruitt in between them. Guerrero, Pruitt, Mario, and that is the battle for second place. There's Raul Boesel, Arie Luyendyk, and then Emerson Fittipaldi. Pardon me, Paul Tracy behind him.
For all of you budding race drivers out there, by the way, that's, again, Andretti putting another lap on Scott Pruitt, who traveled to Monte Carlo and would perhaps someday dream of being at Monte Carlo and meeting your dream girl. That's exactly what happened to Roberto Guerrero. Wife Katie was vacationing in Monte Carlo. Roberto was there for a racing weekend. Katie was there. She spotted him at one of those very luxurious cocktail parties and declared that at that moment, I am told, that's the guy I want to marry. And sure enough, that's what happened.
Guerrero obviously very happy to be back in a competitive car and racing again after sitting out most of last year.
This would be
on board with Arie Luyendyk. He's really struggling with that car too.
Yeah, he is. This would be a terrific race for Roberto Guerrero if he could end up on the podium.
There you see Luyendyk shaking his head as he goes by his pit, kind of like a no, the car's just not running like I want it to be. Also, you see his right hand moving. That's because he's going through the gears. Unlike in Formula One, they don't have the semi-automatic gearboxes. You've got to take your hand off the wheel to change the gears, and that's something that Nigel's had to get used to again, having been in Formula One.
Arie really has been struggling this weekend. You know, Guy, what really amazed me about Arie Luyendyk, he has been racing in America for approximately 12 to 13 years now. He came over here first with the Super Vs when they were active in SCCA. Arie turned out to be just a master of the ovals, and I think it even surprised him. That is really where he is at his best. He's extremely competent on the road courses, and when the car is right, he's a threat to win. But where he is so strong, he's become strong on the oval.
And of course, the oval is where they go next. The big oval, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, for the whole month of May. Rookie orienteering will be coming up in just over a week, which everyone has to participate in that has not driven at Indianapolis before. That obviously includes Nigel Mansell.
Raul Boesel in the bright yellow-orange number 9, having a great race. Told you he is running in 4th position. Colors of that car to match the sponsor, Duracell batteries. Mobil 1 is also a part of it. It is a Lola 93, one of the Ford Cosworths that have surfaced back in IndyCar racing this season after a bit of a layoff. There was a time when the Ford Cosworth engine was the dominant power plant. As a matter of fact, that's what A.J. Foyt was driving. Oh,
we just had Eddie Cheever taken out by Robbie Gordon, who Robbie Gordon is already under a penalty. Now Paul Tracy is stopped. Oh, he's having to go back to make the turn. He can't make the turn.
As is Luyendyk.
Luyendyk reacted to the incident that took place in front of him.
But why is
that was Robbie Gordon's fault. He came in and just T-boned Eddie Cheever. There you see someone ducking down a quick way into pit lane to avoid the incident. And Robbie Gordon, as you had mentioned earlier, had been penalized for not tightening up his belts when he got towed back. And he suffered that penalty, obviously came charging, trying to do something about it, and ran right into the side of Eddie Cheever. There you see Luyendyk saying, hey, come and get me, give me a tow.
I am not broken. I don't know why it won't start. And as a matter of fact, I don't either, Arie, understand why your car won't go, because I saw the skid marks. I don't believe he came in contact with
I think I see Nigel going to the pits here. And yes, he does. Nigel ducks into the pits.
It's likely a full course yellow here at Long Beach, California. Nigel Mansell, the leader, has pitted. Roberto Guerrero runs in 2nd. Mario Andretti is in 3rd. Raul Boesel is 4th. Scott Goodyear and fellow Canadian Paul Tracy are 5th and 6th as Nigel Mansell comes in for the pause that refreshes, both for himself as well as his race car.
At the moment, most of his competition had taken themselves out of the event. Nigel back out underway. A quick pit stop for him. Very good and clean. Oh, no! Almost getting together with his teammate on the exit of pit lane. That happened here just a year ago.
And remember Michael Andretti with Emerson Fittipaldi, which we saw at the top of the show. Michael bouncing high in the air, actually almost crashing over the pit wall onto the racetrack from pit road. Now,
that was very close and strange considering they're teammates and right there together. Oh, it would appear that Scott Pruitt overshot his pit lane and has accidentally caught one of the mechanics. Here you see Nigel and Mario once again. They both leave at the same time. Mario's got more power going, comes down. Nigel almost pulled over right on.
Does get through, I believe. Mario Andretti perhaps has exited this pit stop as the leader. Now, we need to also remind you, it is lap 73 of a 105-lap race as we continue to monitor this very unfortunate situation in Scott Pruitt's pit. The reason why there's a speed limit down there. With 73 laps complete, this is the final set of pit stops. You'd be able to go home from here.
Okay, so certainly some nasty moments there in the pit lane. We almost had a repeat of the Michael Andretti Emerson Fittipaldi accident in the pit lane in 1991, which took both of those drivers out, and obviously we've seen a rather nasty incident there where one of Scott Pruitt's mechanics has been hit by one of the cars, well, by Pruitt's car, we think, which we think overran his pit. So a very unfortunate situation there. And even with the limitations on only 6 mechanics being allowed over the wall for the pit work, obviously it is still a very limited space in which these cars are travelling very, very quickly into and out of the pit. So let's hope that the Scott Pruitt mechanic is going to be okay. We're going to return with coverage of the Long Beach Grand Prix in just a few moments. Welcome back as the mechanic from the Scott Pruitt team is taken away on the stretcher. Let's hope that he's okay. We're going to get this race underway, but the pit stops have certainly changed things around now, with Paul Tracy now leading, with Mario Andretti moving up into second place, and Nigel Mansell now down to third place. The pit stops situation certainly affects things because the cars came in at different times through this part of the race, and that is why we saw Mansell leading for a while, and now he's back down to third place, and there's the man leading the queue, Paul Tracy, who's now in the overall lead of the race. Now then, Robin, we've got around about the 30 laps to go, about 31, 32 laps to go. Are we going to see any more pit stops?
The big question is whether Tracy's got to make one. He had to make an inadvertent one that we saw, but I'm afraid the listeners didn't see. Mario and Nigel will go all the way to the finish, and that should be an interesting little challenge.
So they're absolutely together now on the road, of course. So when we get this green flag being waved again, when we get the pace car back into the pits, they're going to be racing for the race positions. They're going to be right together. So we could have a very exciting final 30 or so laps here.
Yes, Tracy's stop, if he has to have one, is only going to be a very short one.
We've just got a little look here again at that incident that we saw a little bit before the break, and that was Robbie Gordon coming in there from the funny angle to Eddie Cheever. It did look very strange, actually. It almost looked like something went wrong with Robbie Gordon's car, because he got out of the way and then he just seemed to charge straight into the car of Eddie Cheever. There we see Arie Luyendyk, and Arie Luyendyk actually hit the wall in trying to avoid Scott Pruitt, but we've got the greens, so the race is underway again, and it's Paul Tracy who leads the way from Mario Andretti, from Nigel Mansell. Now, is Mansell going to take his teammate straight away, or is Andretti going to hold on to this second place? A good tussle in prospect between these two. Mansell down the outside there, Andretti taking the slightly more defensive line, holds on to that second place, but a great battle in store between these two. Paul Tracy just pulling out a very slight advantage. There's Emerson Fittipaldi next up, but we think he's a little bit further down the order at the moment, having made those extra pit stops earlier in the race. Raul Boesel there as well, but this is the battle for second place, with Mansell keen to try and get back into the lead. He wants to get back to Paul Tracy. So Mansell with it all to do. Let's return to our American commentators.
So the two veterans, both former Formula One world champions. Mario, of course, also an IndyCar champion, winner of the Indianapolis 500, will try to fill the mirrors of young Paul Tracy. Paul Tracy has shown as much speed and courage in a race car as any driver in American IndyCar racing over the past 2 seasons. The question is, has he shown as much prowess? Because not only do you have to be fast, of course, you have to finish. And here's Scott Pruitt. Scott Pruitt has come to the pits for a stop-and-go penalty, so apparently Scott Pruitt was penalized for that pit incident involving one of his crew members.
I think what happened is he overshot his pit, which means he would have run over the airline, which powers the jacks, and once you run over that airline, you automatically incur a penalty. And they pulled him back to the pit area, and obviously he came in too hard, too fast, probably over the speed limit, and that's unfortunately what happened to the mechanic. I believe he's okay.
Back up front, Paul Tracy continues to dominate this field. Tracy has given no ground to Formula One champ Nigel Mansell. You see the interval there between first and second. First is out of the screen, and Mansell is actually trailing Mario Andretti. Make the correction. Mario Andretti runs in second position, and Tracy has distanced himself from Mario, and Mario has opened up about 7 or 8 car lengths over Nigel.
There's Guerrero and Ray Hall also battling it out. Raul Boesel in front of them, and you saw Emo do a very nice move, and he knows he's not running up with the front guys. He just pulled over and let those guys go by. Ray Hall having a good run after not being in the top all weekend. He hasn't been running up real fast with the qualifying or in any of the warm-up sessions or practice sessions.
1.6 miles around, 8 corners. You're right now in the turn 6, 7, and now 8 coming up complex. The turn 8 is the hairpin, remember, leading on to Shoreline Drive. That is the equivalent of the front straightaway, the home stretch. It's shaped like a large crescent moon. You'll see Ray Hall make a little bit of bend to the right, full throttle all the way around. It's a thrilling ride. The front stretch undulates a little bit. It's a little bit like Brands Hatch, but not quite the accentuation of the undulations.
Teo Fabi coming in for a stop-and-go penalty for also breaking the speed limit in pit lane. Teo Fabi was running at 9th. I think Robbie Buell may have nipped by him on that.
We've had an absolute rash of those speed violations in the pit road.
It's, like I say, it's something when you're driving this aggressively, this pumped up, in a race at 180 down the straightaway, to come into pit lane and then suddenly control yourself and go, okay, I've got to slow down, because you're anxious to get to the pit in the first place and get the work done and get back out racing on the track. And it's really hard to control yourself, and it's also very hard to judge your speed. How fast are you going? There is a radar at the top of the pit lane which gives you a readout as you enter pit lane, but after that you don't know, and it is very hard to judge, you know, am I doing 30 miles an hour? Am I doing 40 miles an hour?
The gray-haired, distinguished-looking gentleman that we saw just moments ago, that, of course, was the General, Roger Penske, owner of Emerson Fittipaldi's car, but right now he's watching his other driver, because his other driver is running a little closer to the front. He's in the lead at the Toyota Grand Prix at Long Beach. Paul Tracy, we've mentioned many times how fast he has been, but he's been scary in IndyCar racing for the past 2.5 seasons. And he has put himself in a position to win another race today. Can he pull it off? Paul Tracy has never won one of these races.
He's due for one, certainly. He's led a lot. He's sat on the pole for one. You see Nigel going down the main Shoreline Drive. The palm trees, the blue sky, a couple of clouds.
Under the Texaco Bridge. This is
heavy on the brakes, through the gears as they take this corner in second. This one also in second, and then second or third for this corner, and they shift up through the gears again here. You'll see his hand go down as they go through here. Third, and that's now up to 4th.
Corner number 5 onto the backstretch. We'll go through the tunnel. A series of buildings that actually span this racetrack. Hard braking for corner number 6. It was in this series right here where Allenser Jr. caused that damage. Yes, that is underneath the right rear of Nigel Mansell's car, and it's been flapping in the breeze like that since Allenser Jr. hit it about 40 laps ago.
There's our young 22-year-old leader, Paul Tracy, the Canadian. Now you see Emerson going past Nigel. Nigel must be slowing. We saw Emma lock up the right front a moment ago. Emerson must be, Nigel must be slowing because Emerson has no need to go past Nigel like that, and he knows that Nigel is racing for
He absolutely would not
second
do
position.
that intentionally. You're right. There's Penske again, stoic in his observations of his young driver. He has been here so many times before. Paul has teased this team. He has appeared to be in the dominant position, but a mistake has always cut him off at the pass.
And it's getting expensive. Roger doesn't like it anymore. His NASCAR team also doing very well this year with Rusty Wallace, who's picked up a couple of victories.
It's
in the
remarkable.
NASCAR Winston Cup
After
Series.
Rusty's accident at Daytona, perhaps some of you saw video of that wreck at Daytona in a stock car. He flipped a number of times down the back straightaway, completely destroying the car.
Bosell has got past Nigel Mansell, and Rahal is now going by too. So that means Nigel has certainly got some kind of problem on his car.
We're also getting a report on the radios. Listen to this. Mario Andretti has brushed the wall. Usually the malady that falls to Paul Tracy, but Mario Andretti, in his chase of the young Canadian, has brushed the wall. There's Carl Haas, seldom lit, but always stuffed in his mouth, that stogie.
And always there. This is going to help Paul Tracy
Immensely. Riding with Nigel Mansell. And Mansell has dropped back. We're showing him on timing and scoring in third, but we saw Boiselle. It looked like Rahal was going to get him. Nigel's likely fifth right now.
now timing and scoring and making the changes to agree with what we're saying. Nigel Mansell has now fallen down behind Scott Goodyear too. Paul Tracy, I believe, has led more laps than anybody else, which will give him a bonus point too. He led those laps at the beginning. That'll give him a bonus point in the championship.
In 1992, despite not winning a race, Paul Tracy was ranked 4th in laps led in IndyCar racing. So it gives you an idea of how strong he has been, and as I mentioned earlier, how many times he has teased this team.
I bet you Paul would be a lot happier leading just 16 laps per year. The
Yes.
last one at each race.
Yep, he'd take those 16. What a huge boost in the confidence of this young driver. The world is also right now watching young Jacques Villeneuve. Yes, the son of Gilles is racing. He'll be running a Formula Atlantic race, after the IndyCar race right now. And he shows a great deal of promise. And much of the world is also watching this Canadian, Paul Tracy, as well as Scott Goodyear. So right now, the Dominion of Canada with young Jacques, Paul Tracy, our race leader today, and Scott Goodyear, they look to be in pretty good shape.
And Ron Fellows in the Trans Am race yesterday.
Who won here, yes. Canada.
Nigel was saying, you point out that there's a Toyota Atlantic race coming up later on this afternoon. Nigel had quoted yesterday he's not used to running on a circuit where there's so many other types of cars running in the same weekend. We have Trans Am, which are the big, heavy production saloon car races. There's Toyota Atlantic. There was the Indy Lights. We had the Toyota Pro Celebrity race, although that doesn't really change the track that much.
And even the electric powered car.
The electric power race, which we had earlier today. So the track service totally changes between sessions.
The electric powered cars, we need to explain for everyone around the world. Of course, with ecology and all the changes we're trying to make in that area, as you're riding with Bobby Rahal as he tries to move up in position. One of the experimental trends happening right now in America, as we go back down to the pits and see Danny Sullivan, is that they are experimenting with battery-powered cars, which obviously run electricity. Many of them, some of them are also solar-powered. There's another group that runs that. And as an exhibition, we had many of their racers, the electric racers, compete here this year at the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach.
They just recently broke the 100-mile-an-hour barrier, too, at the Oval at Phoenix. There you see our top 5, Paul Tracy, Mario Andretti, Raul Boesel, who is being hounded there by Bobby Rahal. Bobby Rahal behind him. They're going to go past. I believe that is Roberto Guerrero.
Boesel is the first yellow-orange car, number 9, and Rahal, of course, in the familiar Miller colors, black and gold. The number is 1, symbolic as Rahal trying to outbrake Raul, going to the corner. Not quite enough.
This is a battle for third position.
Corner 2. Corner 3 coming up, going up for just a second on Pine Street, now to Seaside Way as we make this hard right-hander. Equivalent of the back straightaway coming up, bends a little bit. You'll see the cars disappear under buildings there, the TWA Bridge, the Valvoline Bridge. hard braking once again into corner number 6. And Ray Hall's not close this time. He really had to break his rhythm going into corner number 1.
He does seem to be quicker out of the hairpin and quicker down Shoreline Drive. Here you see him close up under braking. Well, Bozell's off to a good start out of there. Now we'll see if the Ray Hall Hogan Chassis 001 can make up the difference on the Lola of Raul Bozell.
Interesting comment. Bobby Rahal, it seems like he's always found himself in a position with a race team. Of course, this one is his, so it's his own preference.
His money.
He's experimenting with a chassis. He's always been in that position, and in years past, he hasn't really expressed a preference to that, and I was quite surprised when I found out that he and Carl Hogan decided to branch out on their own, too.
This is the chassis, too, that Scott Pruitt ran last year.
And it's 001, which is the interesting thing.
And this is, they've made a few changes to it. Ray Hall tested it at Mid-Ohio and decided it had great potential. They also have hired Mike Groff, who is going to be a test driver. And Mike Groff is going to be the test driver for the Bobby Ray Hall Genuine Draft team, and they're going to run him at some of the races. 6 races, I believe, this year.
We now understand also, as we continue to watch this Raul Boisel on the right and Bobby Ray Hall on the left battle, that the mechanic injured in Scott Pruitt's pit was Scott Lennon. He is conscious. Apparently the injuries are certainly not life-threatening and perhaps not even severe. So good news and a confirmation from the Scott Pruitt pit.
Pit lane is a very active place. You've got to have eyes in both sides of your head and be on your feet.
Isn't it interesting now how lap traffic really plays a role in a battle like this? Ross Bentley doing what he was supposed to do, but look at how it has allowed Ray Hall to move up. Now, if Ray Hall has a good south end of this racetrack where they are right now, Bobby, a little bit loose, that'll cost him. If he has a good south end, though, and can really hit his line coming out of the hairpin, you'll see him try to make the pass again at the end of the front stretch this time.
Raul Bozell is having a great run again, and if he could follow his second place finish at Phoenix with a third place finish here, I'm sure the team will be very happy.
We also understand, following up on the Scott Pruitt incident, that he has a possible fracture of the foot and that he was struck by a tire, and I'm assuming that means the tire that was on Scott Pruitt's car when it struck the
either the one that was on or the one that was sitting waiting in pit lane to go on. He may have just hit that and launched it into him. Here we see Ray Hall taking a look down the inside. Can't do it.
We're also trying to update you as best we can on the Paul Tracy situation. Remember, that's he on the screen right now. We told you that he had pitted earlier than the other leaders and speculated as to whether or not he could go the distance on the load of fuel he has. We are now told off the radio, yes, that Paul Tracy will go the distance, and that means he needs to work out about
we're about 13 laps
more laps. 13 more laps. Here are the lap leaders today. Mansell, Tracy, and Nigel Mansell again took over for 9 laps there, about a third of the way into the race. And you can see the lead has changed hands several times today because of pit stops, full course yellows, debris on the racetrack. It has been a very full day of exciting Formula motor racing here on the streets of Long Beach.
Paul Tracy will pick up the point for leading the most laps. Nigel Mansell already.
Here's Ray Hall making his move.
And he's done it cleanly and nicely. Bozell had no way. He couldn't move over on him, and he was running up behind that back marker. And Ray Hall saw that and got on the inside line early before Bozell could. Now Bozell making a charge at the hairpin. See if he can get on his gas early. And no, Ray Hall is managing to pull out a bit of a lead on Bozell as they go down Shoreline Drive, heading into turn 1 to complete lap number 93.
That was the fight for third position. Paul Tracy leads. Mario Andretti is lurking. He is only 5 seconds back. Bobby Ray Hall is now third on the lead lap. Raul Boesel, Scott Goodyear still on the lead lap. Nigel Mansell, that's 6th. Roberto Guerrero is in 7th. Those are the 7 cars on the lead lap. In 8th position is Teo Fabi. Robbie Buell now running in 9th. He's had a clean race. I think that's the end of that. And Scott Pruitt is in 10th.
That's a great run for Robbie Buell, who's not been all that quick all weekend, but as you say, he's running a clean race, stayed out of trouble, made his pit stops when he's supposed to, and going to be running at the end, which of course is a crucial thing. Got to be there on that last lap. Ray Hall will be happy with this. He hasn't scored a point yet in the championship. third place will garnish him 12 points.
We are in Long Beach, California. We are ready for the run to the finish. Just 10 laps to go. Long Beach, California, just to place it geographically for those of you around the world, is truly in the, and we have a car stop, and it looks like a Haas car, does it not?
It looks like Nigel Mansell's car.
That is
it's
Mario Andretti, and disappointment in the Andretti pit as Mario Andretti, who was just 5 seconds behind Paul Tracy, has come to a stop out on course. We told you that the unexpected occurs at Long Beach. We begin to mention that to place this geographically for you as we all, I think, droop our shoulders around the world, because if there's ever been a universal world race driver, it's Mario Andretti, as his co-owner Paul Newman also shows the disappointment and shakes his head in distress.
There's Carl Hogan.
Had a second place going, and for Carl Hogan, of course, it's jubilation, because it moves Bobby Rahal up a position, and he's now in the runner-up spot. It is speculated that it is an electrical problem with Mario Andretti.
It's going to make the championship standings very interesting as they go to Indianapolis Motor Speedway for round number 4 of this 16-event series. Rahal will score, now he will score 16 points. Bosell looking to score 15. Paul Tracy to score 20. Mario, he may score 1 or 2. Depending on the other
at this point, we still have 20 cars in the race that are 7 laps down, and we have more than 7 laps to go in the race, so Mario is likely not going to recover any points today. As you see the panorama, the Queen Mary in the background, the Spruce Goose is over there, also floating on the water. Rahal's crew has told him that they do not believe that Paul Tracy can go the distance. Now, this is interesting because we were speculating on this earlier, and our feeling sort of was that he had stopped too early too. So Carl Hogan and the rest of the Bobby Rahal crew, they side with us, but Penske says, nah, the kid can go the distance. And if the kid, Paul Tracy, can, he'll win for the first time in his career an American IndyCar race. What a moment.
He may have to start driving slightly more conservatively, short shifting, not revving, going to full rev limit on the car, try to do what he can to save fuel. He hasn't got a ginormous lead, but he's got enough of a lead where he can back off a little bit.
There's second place Rahal. So as you can see, only on the straightaways and just for a glimpse can Rahal see the race leader Paul Tracy. It is unlikely he's going to catch him.
Well, if he keeps catching at that rate at 1.1 seconds per lap, then he will catch him. So Tracy is obviously already driving slightly more conservatively than we thought he was.
So now it becomes a chess match. How much does Roger Penske tell Tracy to slow down?
Guess who's in between Paul Tracy?
Teammate, maybe?
And Bobby Rahal. Emerson Fittipaldi. And he...
Knowing Emo, though, I would imagine that when he sees Rahal, he has a tremendous amount of respect for Rahal. He is one of the drivers he came to know very well when he began running here in the States. I would venture to guess that Emo will move over suddenly.
I think not as quickly as he may have done.
You don't think so?
Not with his teammate out front. I think we may see Emo just enough down one straightaway or something.
Smoke is thicker than blood, as in Marlboro?
Looking for a dramatic finish to this 105-lap event here at Long Beach.
98 laps to go. You're riding with Arie Luyendyk. Arie Luyendyk is currently being shown in 13th position. He lost 2 laps when the car came to a stop after an incident involving Eddie Cheever and Robbie Gordon in the hairpin. Arie is being shown as 3 laps down, but he has never been a threat for top honors at all this weekend, and he certainly was not in this race. And frankly speaking, it's rather surprising he is only 3 laps down and currently running in the top 15.
Following this event, it is the big one, the Indianapolis 500. Nigel Mansell will go there for his rookie orienteering along with some of the other drivers. And following that is also another oval event. It's on to Milwaukee in Wisconsin. It's a short 1-mile paved oval. There is Scott Goodyear, the Walker Motorsports. He was running 4th at the time.
Boy, the mighty are falling here late in the race. Scott Goodyear, second place finisher in last year's Indianapolis 500. the closest second place in the history of that great race to Al Unser Jr. is out of Long Beach. You know, guys, Scott last year set a record at Indianapolis that will never be beaten. You realize he was an
Closest finisher.
He was also an alternate. Scott Goodyear in that car had not qualified for the race, and because his teammate who had qualified got out of the car, Scott became an alternate driver who started in last position. So not only was it the closest finish, he came from last position, but he hadn't even qualified for the Indianapolis 500.
That's a great way to finish.
It can never be beaten. I mean, the only way a non-qualifier could ever beat Scott's record would be to win the race.
There you see the inside of the convention center. A lot of things going on here as part of the weekend in Long Beach.
100 laps, 5 to go. Can Paul Tracy finally accomplish the task that the general, Roger Penske, laid out before him in the summer of 1991? He saw this young teenage Canadian Charger, one of the fastest race drivers he had seen in open-wheel racing in a long time. He knew that Rick Mears was perhaps approaching the twilight of his career. Rick had begun to make some rumblings that he wanted to race 3-4 years at the most. He knew that Emerson Fittipaldi could not be racing 10 years from now, and he needed a new driver to pick up the torch and carry it. He picked Paul Tracy, and many people have criticized that selection since that time. Paul has been not exactly reckless, but he's lost a lot of cars for Roger Penske. He might be on the way for his first win ever today as we look at Debbie Rahal, Bobby's wife.
For Paul Tracy, one thing it has always been is very quick. He did very well in the Indy Lights Series. He won most of the races when he won that championship, and he was being quick from the get-go of getting in an Indy car. Bobby Rahal has been unable to close that gap up much more, I think mainly due to traffic. Tracy's having a lot of luck getting through the traffic. Also, we should mention that following that incident earlier, Eddie Cheever was able to get going again and is out there racing again. There you see Rahal. In fact, that gap seems to have grown. With only 4 laps to go, Emerson Fittipaldi in between them, I think it's going to be tough for Bobby to make up that difference. But I'm sure he'd probably be happy with a second-place finish. There you see Carl Hogan is he's co-owner. He is pretty happy. So,
I mean, Carl almost looks like he's leading, and Penske looks like he's chasing.
Penske thinking he wants to vote. It's never over till that checker flag drops, as they say. And
don't forget, all of you, the countries around the world who have seen Formula One racing, Roger Penske is the man who brought us Mark Donohue. He discovered Mark, the Brown University engineer who left such an impact on our sport.
Rahal, the number one number on his car, because he is defending champion in the PP Cup Championship. 3 laps to go.
Tracy will have 2 to go this time by. He has been told to be very conscious of the fuel gauge. Actually, the gauge means nothing at this point. It's obvious that Roger Penske and Rick Mears, who is a part of this brain trust right now, they have made the decision they are going to go to distance. And this time by, Tracy, who had just flashes now crossed the start-finish line, has 2 laps to go.
And he has about a second on Bobby Rahal, or a second and a half on Bobby Rahal. So it's Paul Tracy, Bobby Rahal,
Raul Boesel out of the top 5. He's coming to a stop, so that's going to shuffle the standing up front one more time. Now the question is this a fuel problem?
That is a tough break. There you see him hit the steering wheel. Very disappointed, Raul Boesel. Tough break for them. They were doing so well this weekend and had a great finish at Phoenix 2 weeks ago. That'll bump Nigel Mansell up. Teo Fabio jump up a spot, Roberto Guerrero, and Robbie Buell.
Race leader, Paul Tracy, into the back straightaway. There's Scott Pruitt going by. Here comes Bobby Rahal, the interval between first and second. Tracy right now is scooting through turn 6, 7, 8 around the hairpin. He'll be approaching Shoreline Drive momentarily now, watching for Paul Tracy. Here he comes as Rahal goes around the hairpin. And Tracy completes lap 104. He's on the last lap. The white flag is out for 22-year-old Paul Tracy. There is second running Bobby Rahal, and as Paul Tracy
Rahal went past us very, very slowly. I wonder if he has enough fuel to make it. The car sounded rough, and he was not anywhere near on the throttle like he should have been.
Right now, Nigel Mansell finds himself deposited or awarded 3rd place. He's just 18 seconds back, but all eyes are on Paul Tracy. He is about perhaps to realize the trust, the faith, the confidence that Roger Penske expressed in this young driver when others were saying it was a mistake. Here comes Paul Tracy. He now has only about a half a mile ago, and he will win for the first time in his career. The hairpin drops down to second gear, perhaps to 30 or 40 kilometers per hour. Tracy running conservatively. The clenched fist comes from the cockpit, and Paul Tracy has finally done it. The Dominion of Canada stands in unison and applauds.
The question is, can Rahal make it around?
Waiting for
And he
Bobby
does.
Rahal.
Bobby
Here he
Rahal.
comes.
Oh, what a superb performance there from Paul Tracy, finally getting the win that he's looked like he's been heading for so long. Robin, the Roger Penske team must be absolutely delighted with that. He's really made up for the disaster of Phoenix.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure on those last few laps. Tracy's put the car on the wall in the last few laps of a race several times. He had a couple of world champions on his back. He'd had problems with the tyre and had to make an emergency pit stop. And above all, I think there is a very, very small amount of fuel in that car. If he gets around this lap, I'll be surprised. Penske always looks a little bit tight at the end of the race, but he looks a lot tighter than I've ever seen him look before.
Well, certainly a great performance from Paul Tracy on the circuit. He actually made his IndyCar debut back in 1991. He did his first IndyCar race here at Long Beach. So it's obviously a key circuit for Paul Tracy. Nigel Mansell, though, a good third place for Nigel Mansell, coming back after that very hefty accident at Phoenix a couple of weeks ago. I think Mansell will now go towards the Indianapolis 500 in a good frame of mind. He's got a good result from this. Bobby Rahal with that second place in the ex-True Sports car, a great result for the defending champion as well. So he's got himself back up in the championship table. So the championship really is hotting up now nicely with the Penske team going well. The having taken a win away now from the Newman Haas team, who'd won both the opening races of the season. So it really looks as though we're going to be in for a great championship season, and we'll be following most of the season here on Eurosport. We'll be in fact with coverage of the Milwaukee race on June the 6th. That will be our next race here on Eurosport for coverage of the Indy cars. There's Paul Tracy getting all the congratulations from his pit crew. Absolutely delighted pit crew. The Penske team will be celebrating tonight, that's for sure. And Rick Mears will no doubt be delighted with the performance of his protege, Paul Tracy. So the Canadian, his first ever IndyCar win. Most of his racing has been in North America. He raced in Canada in Formula Ford, and then moved on to the States. He did race in Britain for a little while, actually. Interestingly enough, he raced in the Formula Ford 2000 Championship at Brands Hatch, the Winter Series in 1986. So we have seen this man race in Britain, but he certainly made his career in the United States, and he is now going to go a long way, I think. Robin, you would agree with that? He's got a great future in front of him.
Absolutely. It's been obvious since when he won the Indy Lights Championship, which is the American equivalent of Formula 3000, and he dominated it, and the sheer talent was obvious to everybody. It's a rare talent, you don't see it too often, and all being well, it's going to be the first of an awful lot of wins.
Well, the top six in the end then was Paul Tracy, the winner, of course, Bobby Rahal in the second place. Nigel Mansell was third. Fittipaldi was in fourth place. Then Guerrero in fifth. And Robbie Buell in sixth position. So a great performance for another Indy Lights man, the championship from last year, Robbie Buell. So he takes sixth place. Well, a great IndyCar race here from Long Beach. But from Robin Hurd, myself, Ben Edwards, it's goodbye until next time.
Great job.